Good evening and welcome to the Elite Encounters video update for the 25th of January 2016. Take 2. Essentially what happened is, it's now 10:30 and I've just finished my ordinary Monday night stream. I realised at the very start of it that my microphone was muted for the entirety of the previous update, so I'm having to run it again. So there's the quick potted history of it for you, which is why I'm doing a second one. Okay, I originally had a lot of excuses why I was late getting the original update up. There was a lot of technical issues trying to get the spreadsheet put together and get everything sorted out and get my ducks in a row for doing the update, and yeah, it didn't work very well. So I'm not going to waste much time on it tonight. It's late, I've got stuff to do, all game development stuff you'll be happy to know. So right, what we sort of finished off doing last week was we were looking at the progress that was made over my break, when I wasn't meant to be working on the game and ended up working on the game anyway because I'm just that good. So what I said I was going to have a look at this week was how the movement had changed and what had been done to sort of make it work a bit better and be a bit more stable. So as I said last week, there's no hex movement anymore. We've ditched the hex based movement options and gone for a more linear arc based approach. So basically what happens is ships now move within a movement arc based on their stats. The arc based movement is essentially the man or maneuverability value of the ship corresponds to one of the arcs on this wheel that is on the screen in front of you as we speak. The yellow lines are movement arcs, the red lines are combined movement arcs and firing arcs. For the moment we'll just discuss the arc based ones. So essentially a ship will have a maneuverability, that'll be 1, 2, possibly 6, possibly 8 depending on the type of ship, and that dictates which arc the ship can move in. So it can move from the P side to the S side. So port and P and S obviously mean port and starboard. The number corresponds to the maneuver value or the man value of the ship. So if a ship had a man value of 4, for example, then where it says P4 on one side and then the corresponding mirror image, the S4 on the other side, the ship could move within that arc of movement. There is also a speed value, which used to be MOV, movement, on the old stats, but Colin and I decided that speed was a much better value to use, and I was quite happy with that because I'd kind of swithered between them both anyway. So we went with that, and the speed value is again a number between 1 and however high it may go. It could be 8, 12, very rarely 12 to be honest with you. It could be that high if you've got a very very fast ship, and that is the number of inches which you can travel. Now, as I've said in the RPG before, the units of measurement that you use are entirely up to you. So although we've used inches as the default, and it's been designed upon the concept of using inches essentially for ease of movement and giving you a decent amount of area to play in an ordinary table, and so it's not too fiddly with the movement, you have that there. So you can move within that arc of movement for that amount of inches in that space, and at the end of your move you can change the facing depending on your man value. So your facing is the same as what it is, so the big square in the middle there is where your ship's base fits, and at the end of the movement you can move, you can rotate around a number of arcs equal to the man value as well. But you can only do that at the end of your move, you can't do that at the start of your move. And you don't have to you don't have to rotate the full value either. So yeah, so that seems to work quite well. It holds together for Colin's version of the rules, and it holds together for the RPG as well. It does simplify it a lot. It gets rid of the hex restrictions, so you have a more free, you have more freedom of movement. You're not restricted to the location of hexes, so you can only move in 6 strict directions. But with the maneuverability you've got in your ship, you can pretty much move anywhere within that arc and finish where you want to finish. So we're quite pleased with how that works. Colin has given it a quick playtest, which I'll come to later on, and says it seems to be holding together and was quite enjoyable to play. So yes, I'm quite confident that we've done quite well there. So the vehicle cards have to cope with all this different changes, and rather than using the, as I touched on last week, rather than using all these hex trackers that we had before, it's made more sense to go just with numeric values, because it's much easier to keep track of, and as I said, it wastes a hell of a lot less space on the vehicle card and on the vehicle sheet as well. So what we have here is the redesign of the redesign of the redesign of the redesign of the vehicle cards, in order to hold the stats that we've got. Now, there's a lot more space on this because of getting rid of those hex trackers. I loved the idea of the hex trackers. They made things a little bit easier in my head, but as I said last week, fundamentally there was some design flaws with it, and I'm kind of glad that Colin's made me see sense on this and trash that concept, because it wasn't great. What we have here is an option where there are tokens that Colin's miniatures rules use to denote things like power allocation and movement issues and special abilities, that kind of thing. They are going to be about 1 centimetre square. Probably, not entirely sure if they're going to be circular or square actually. We've not decided on a shape for them yet, oddly enough. That's something we'll come into, possibly touch on that on the next update. We'll have a look at the different options between Colin's miniatures rules and the Starship Combat rules that we're using here. But the option is there to use the tokens if players want to use them, so they'd be presented in the RPG as an option to use, I think. I've not discussed that with Colin yet, but as far as I can see, I think it's a good idea to give the players the flexibility to have that option there if they so desire, or they can just use the stuff from the miniatures rules. I'll sort that out with Colin in one of the future conversations. But essentially the option is there to use them on that card if you want to. Colin will be using the same card design in his game as I am in these Starship Combat rules, and there's enough room also in there if you don't use them to write down any different things. So you can write that you've got power allocation into your speed, or you've changed the power allocation. I'll come to that in possibly another update. So the power allocation is one of the key ways that this game is going to differ, but it will be also one of its key similarities between the RPG rules and the computer game as well, which we're quite kind of happy with that idea. So yeah, so essentially you put your you can write all the information that you need into the empty boxes there. So mana and speed are your movement. We call it collectively that's the engines, and you've got your shields and your firepower, which are all systems that you can pump power into and improve the stats if you have the power to do so. So yeah, we're quite happy with that. So Colin did a bit of a play test. I thought I'd fix this, but I obviously haven't. Colin ran a play test, and he seemed quite happy with the way that the rules were running. He ran a play test tonight, actually just before I did the first attempt of this update, and seemed to be running quite well. This is a screenshot, a photo that he took of the game in progress, where you can see some of the way that his miniatures rules will work, but you can also see some elements of the shared universe and the shared and some of the RPG elements as well. The little circle in the bottom left hand corner is the movement template, which has actually been printed off too small, because as you saw on the design there's a square in the middle. That is the size of the actual bases that are going to be used, and the actual counters that the Elite RPG will use. So they're about 4 centimeters by 4 centimeters to tally again with the bases that Colin's using for his rules, which are a 4 centimeter square base. The idea was with that the circle is printed off big enough to the entire base of the ship can fit inside the square that's printed on the circle, so you can then line it up with your movements and so on. It's sitting on top of one of the concept vehicle sheet, which will contain the information, upgrades, modules, vital stats, weapons, all that sort of information that you need for the ship to run in the RPG and in the Starship Combat rules. On the back of that sheet will be some more information that can be used primarily for the RPG and won't be really used for either the miniatures rules or for the Starship Combat or for the RPG expansion. So yeah, that's looking quite good. So I hope you like the look of that. Next week we'll discuss another couple of things regarding the rules and give you a bit of a progress update on what's been going on. But for now we'll leave it there. I'm not going to go much into the upcoming events. It's the same as what I said last week. Elite Meet we're not entirely sure we're going to make it to, and LaveCon we're definitely going to be there with hopefully some changes to the way that things run, and we'll see how that goes. So that's it again for this update. Attempt 2 draws to a close. Hopefully it's recorded this time, and I shall speak to you again next week at the same time. So it's Monday 1st of February, 8 PM UK time. If you have any comments, questions or queries, then please submit them by email or Facebook or Messenger or any of the comms channels that you can see at the bottom of the screen there. And if you get them to me before 6 PM on next Monday, I'll stick them in the broadcast and answer your question live on the update. So, all the best everyone. That's us done for another night. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.